Oh yeah, okay. So, what's up everyone? We're back with another video. This is part 2 of the series, What if Civilization Started Over? So to left off, we had a map like this. So first announcement, remember this layer? Oh, yeah, I don't really like it, so. Alright, bye-bye with it. It caused a ton of mistakes. So they were going to have, ignore that. So today we're going to have a lot more expansion than last time. Because this is basically the consolidation, right? This is beginnings, alright? So to start with, we're going to have very little developments actually happening. You see, the problem with this is we are in a situation where at a time right after a great war appears, so these countries are trying to restore all their losses. Now, don't get me wrong, these countries are free to expand, and they do so. As they kind of just take a lot of land. Now, this is not the only country to benefit from this. I will show you later. Well, not later. It's like 1 minute. Be patient. So I'll show you in a sec. But, like, this is not the only country to benefit from this. But by the time the blue team starts expanding like this, they were strategic about it, too. They tried cutting them off, mostly. And kept kind of keeping up with this little bulge thingy. Tried cutting them off. So, yeah. And then by that time, the French would start re-expanding. I called them the French. They're the blue team. But you know what? Yeah. But these guys were not the only ones to benefit from this. The purple team managed to do this. However, in that time period, it wasn't just expansion that happened. We're going to have our first civil war. But here, let me show you all the expansion that happened while that war was happening. Because that was a lot of time I spent on one little area, and I want to show you what after when they were trying to restore themselves, and what happened when they were just kind of not trying to do that, but they were just kind of in the war, and they were trying to restore themselves from the war. So this a lot actually happened, like a lot. This isn't. There's actually a first civil war in the entire series so far, I think. Now, we've had civil war, like rebellions, but not civil wars. Orange is a rebellion, not a civil war, because that was not equal. That was like this versus this, like all of that. Not fair, as seen from the fact that Red's taken a lot of their proof. No, this is kind of equal, and also there's multiple factions. This is a really complicated civil war. Alright, it's basically a war of succession. A very brutal one at that as well. Because the last one we're going to have over here is this other faction, which kind of has a lot of... Kind of looks like Serbia, but it's not Serbia, because Serbia's over here, kind of. So, yeah. It's kind of shaped like Serbia, but it's not Serbia. So yeah, if you think this looks like a headache, imagine me trying to map it. Alright, so basically what happened was a king died, and there's a lot, a lot of disclosure about which one won. Now, in that time, this is like right after this Great War started, so by the time the war ended, no, this is right now. Did I say it was right after they finished, like, kinda. So yeah, right now, after a while, this pocket probably got wiped out, and this one got also a little bit. And I'm gonna say but at that cost, these guys kind of pushed a little further. Stuff like that, like this to call it consolidation of different fronts. These guys invade, and I would apparently chose the wrong one. There, this is the right one. Alright, this is basically the front. Actually, I think this guys would actually be wiped out. Alright. Also, the last nation to hugely benefit from this was the Orange Team. Now, the Orange Team was in the Great War. However, they had a lot of people just kind of flee, and they would flee pretty far, eventually doing this. Now, this kind of breaks off eventually for a completely different reason than initial. Like most ones, they simply kind of didn't think it was geography sound. Because, like, it's kind of like if the 13 colonies owned Alaska instantly. Not much can really be done to kind of, because at this time, that's a far distance. Like, really far. Like, the greatest explorers would do about half, about, like, 1.5 of that. And this is, like, supposed to be normal trade? Yeah, no. Alright, so then we would kind of have these guys claiming a lot of territory in modern day, in our world's Denmark, also a little bit more. And after a while, they'd kind of have a little bit like something a little bit like this. Now, Orange Team it wasn't all bad for them. You're right, they cannot stop catching L's, but they did expand this way down, kind of fall in, little border. And the Green Team, the part that was not involved in the war, definitely was in it. Definitely expanded quite a lot as they took over most of our world's Wales and just a lot more. They kind of took a lot of current day England, not all of it though, because there's like a lot of this. Still, yeah. So I think if we had to make a power ranking now, it'd be a lot more difficult because there's like a lot more countries, and yeah, it's just like, oh dang. Now, this is where things get complicated. So, while the Civil War is happening, these guys go all the way down here and discover Sicily. Now, the thing about Sicily is it's kind of an island, and while you're in a civil war, you can't really spare that many boats, so it's kind of hard to control. Now, I'm not saying they would instantly rebel, but sometime within the Civil War, they rebel, and with it, a lot of Sicily, kind of. We'll just make Sicily its own republic, and then, yeah, that's good. And then they have a little colony on Sardinia, and a bit of Corsica. There we go. We'll call it the Island Empire, alright? But we're going to have our first great exploration, alright? Because just like our timeline, there's going to be a lot of great explorers, alright? We're going to name this guy, I don't know, John. John Vendez, alright? That's his name. So what he's going to do is this guy, he's from here, alright? He's from here. But he lived on the ocean, so maybe more like here. Alright, and he is going to sail all the way down to, like, here. Now, he's only going to find desert, right? So he's going to probably return back. But as he returns back, he notices, oh wait, Africa's there. Now, I'm not sure if you can see Africa from Spain. I'm not sure. I'll look it up. Can you see Africa from Spain? Okay, you can. So, I guess, yeah, he realizes the continent was a lot bigger than initially expected. And immediately, these guys want all that land. So, they go like, boom. But this John Vendez guy wasn't done, right? He decided, how far west can I go? He decided, this guy was like exploration crazy. This guy was probably had some insanity thing, right? He was obsessed with exploring. He would go far. Like really, 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 really far. And I'm not talking America far. He would eventually turn around like halfway through. But like, he wouldn't just stop. No, 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 no. He would keep going. And he would stop at this island because somehow he knew about it. And, we'll just say he kind of kept taking going to little islands and just taking a lot of supplies from there. Because obviously he explored this area a lot, so he would actually know about the islands, but he wouldn't tell many people about it because he didn't seem to explore it, unlike the actual continent. He'd go like, boom, and eventually land in here. Alright, this is the route he took. So we're going to put right there. Oh. We're gonna put it like right there. Alright, this is where it stops. And he lands here, and he actually basically puts a prison colony. So these are just like a huge group of prisoners. Because nobody is here except animals. Right? But there's a huge outbreak. Because, like, there's like a huge breakout. Because, like, think about this. This is a ridiculous trip. It's not very self-sufficient. Basically only one huge batch got sent before they realized it costs way more to do this than it just does to just even pay for like killing them or something. Like it was really bad for them. So yeah, they kind of stopped sending guards. Eventually, the prisoners are able to overwhelm the guards and kind of form their own little nation down here. Now they're kind of cooked here because the only ones who know about their existence are these guys, and they know it's a prisoner colony. Now they do know about the breakout. I keep saying outbreak like it's some virus, bro. It's not a virus. Get out. Yeah. But yeah, basically they have no foreign relations, so they keep trying to expand, but they kind of have to hug the coast because the Sahara Desert, so they kind of just womp womp womp. Now, this is like after 50 years, all right, because the rest of the European continent is kind of stagnant. Now, sure, some exploration happens, like for example, I mean, this happens, like basically all of England is finished up. And with that, we're actually going to have a rebellion down here because they're feeling more and more neglected, like they aren't even part of it. And it would win pretty easily. We're also going to have a new nation forming that's basically living off this is the Canary Islands, I believe. Oh, crap. And they would kind of get a little chunk of Spain. And these guys would take over, we're going to say, this. And these guys would take the rest. Alright, so yeah, this is kind of just the map right now. Now, at this point, we're also going to start getting to the point where this is becoming more likely to reach over here. These guys kind of connect. Close. There have been reported sightings, but it's not official yet. It's very close. As you can see, it's definitely close enough sightings are possible, and they probably know of each other's existence, but nobody really believes them. Like right here, there's a few sightings, but like nothing too major. And Yellow's like, hold on, that kind of perfectly matches our suspects. Actually, no, I'm not going to say that. You don't know why? Because it's been probably 200 years since they first formed. Alright, like, no. That did not happen, alright. Everyone's just confused. Because there's been, like, a lot of banishments. Speaking of banishments, so, these guys, I don't know what to tell them, because they kind of have no options here. And honestly, they don't have very much equipment, but they are trying, and they're kind of starting to get a bit of an economy, but economy isn't very useful when you have no trade. So anything they can't produce on their own, they are not producing at all. Now, Orange would continue expanding, like aggressively expanding, but nobody would rebel. Unlike Red, they're good propagandists. They basically take the fact that Green might invade them, right? Red might invade them, and they kind of use that fear to their advantage to make it so everyone has a place to go if that does happen. Like, keep in mind, 80% of their population is still in that little region. And the other 20 is, like, down this little section. Only, like, 3% live in this little area. Although that is rapidly expanding. Speaking of other banishments, we're going to say there's a red banishment, because banishments are actually a very common punishment in this world. Now, the reason for that is because I feel like it's a good plot device to expand. Now, why did I admit that? Because I like being honest with my viewers. Anyways, also as well, these guys would kinda take over the rest of Sardinia and Corsica. The island empire is growing. They would even get this little section. Although Rome would probably try stomping that out, but they would fail because purple likes their trade. So purple would probably aid them, and these guys would fully join in the Civil War. Naval blockade go burr, right? So now, with the red team kinda surrounded by the navies on both sides, they can't really trade very effectively. Because there's blockades, and they would have to beat these guys. And I mean, come on, they're called the Island Empire. You're not beating them in a naval battle. You're definitely gonna be able to beat them in like a navy sense. Like you could maybe, but like these guys know the sea. They're not gonna lose. You can maybe make a stronger fleet, but like doesn't matter. These guys are sailors, all of them. Not to mention, another thing that happens is the official contact of these two areas. It would be the purple team that's exploring, and they would explore a lot until they hit the Alps, and then they stop because they're like, oh goodness. Now, meanwhile, this civil part is kind of just getting, oof. All right, purple team is starting to win this civil war. We'll say that definitely. These guys are starving, and these guys are getting pushed back fast. Several encirclements are happening, and it's not looking good. Now, you know, similar to how Hannibal kind of, what he did was he basically just went across the Alps. Well, similar to that, great generals of this time, what they would do is kind of try, whoop, right? They would just kind of try going around. So that's actually what happened. A grand army moves around here and hits them right in their capital. Unexpected move, obviously. Now, this pocket did get wiped out as well as this one, losing a lot of troops. But now they have to address this because they keep doing the same thing. Actually, no, they can't do that. They keep doing the same thing over and over, and they can never expect it. And they can't just, like, guard everything. So instead, what they decide to do, they realize they're just going to do that over and over again. It's useless. So instead, they just kind of let it happen, but evacuate all people on this area. So these guys de facto actually have all of this. But the reality of the situation is, no, they don't. Because their army's pretty much only in this little part, which they actually do officially control. And the purple team would start making backlash. A lot of it. They would do the same tactic right here and destroy these. Now, with the entirety of their thing destroyed, these guys would probably surrender, right? Well, no, because Cyan team kind of has that mentality, you know? They don't really like surrendering. Kind of like Japan in World War II. So they kind of just evacuate and just run away. Yes, I know it sounds a lot more calories, but to them, it's either that or surrender, so they just kind of make a break for it. They just scavenge the land, and they kind of lose track of where they went. They get to here, but then they lose. They just where did they go? Goodness. And then yeah, not much can be done, so they give up and declare the war ended. Even though it didn't really, but like I mean, it kind of did. Just a little pocket of survivors. Now, this is basically their entire army. So this would become like a warrior country. And because of that, they can expand pretty rapidly. They know how to expand. So they would do that. However, they eventually have to stop because when your population density is 0.2 people per square kilometer, it's pretty hard. So it's kind of hard to get help if you need it. So they kind of stop with those shenanigans and try getting their population up before they do anything. Same with the Denmark de facto team, but not really, because, like, once again, this is a different reality. Red team's kind of starting to notice orange team is basically the same size as them, and they don't like that, so they also do some expanding down, trying to meet up with purple, but they're stopped by the Alps as well. So instead, surround the rest of here, and now they have a good advantage. However, a huge, I mean, even bigger than the first one war would happen as blue team sees the results of civil war here. Now, they believe this to be sort of bad, you know, so they would go over here. Now, red team kind of has contact with purple indirectly, and they hear the news hoping red will side with them, but instead they don't. So, yeah. Now, blue team's navy is also included here, but, like, yeah. And then they make a huge landing, and eventually the whole front kind of collapses. Alright, it's just over for this team. It's alright. You guys had a good run, but, like, you guys kind of just got teamed on by everyone. You just weren't very correct. And they kind of would surrender. Alright, so here's what the treaty's gonna look like. They do get limited independence, but the treaty actually looks is pretty much exactly like this. Blue does get this, because blue actually helped a lot. However, red would be unpleased with this, as, well, yeah. And yellow, green, and whatever this guy is, would all take their side, creating the Great War, as it will be known later. We're going to have these guys, all three of these guys, plus these guys, and these guys, versus, these guys. Wait, no, not those guys. This trifecta, and then green. So this is a pretty big war, right? Yeah. And the first thing that's going to happen in it is, yellow, you're kind of cooked, buddy. Because yellow has a really weak military, and they kind of just get clobbered until red can help. Literally kind of a repetition of the first war. This would be the second Great War between blue and red. Now, blue would kind of slide around, even going through the Alps. Now, this would be a great achievement, because nobody ever really did that before. I mean, sure, over here they had to, but, like, they kind of just sailed around it, in a sense, if you know what I mean. Like, they kind of just were so close to the sea that it didn't really happen that much. They could kind of just go down flat areas. So red would try to cut off this little area, but this would fail because they go around the Alps and instead reverse encircle them. Now, this is like 20-30% of their army just stuck, so yeah, they can't really close in until they starve, which they do, so eventually this gets closed. And now all of a sudden the war doesn't look great. This line would remain stagnant because you'd think these guys would just crush them just like yellow. But these guys have a really strong military for their size. Now, don't forget, this isn't just blue team doing this. This is these guys, these guys, these guys. I mean, it's like, yeah, it's all of them versus two small countries. Now, these guys try doing all this. But, like, they just can't completely do that very much because, like, it just doesn't work too well. If you kind of get what I mean, it's not going to work. And because of that, you can kind of notice that their line's kind of starting to collapse. It's not working because, if we be honest here, this isn't going to do much. Because most of the trade isn't really going to happen through there. Because unlike, this is a similar tactic to what the British did when we were to start out Germany. However, the difference is, who is the blue team trading with? Let me tell you, it's not anyone past this line. Because the only ones that would be helpful is like path like that, maybe. But like even then, just do that. This is why they would try getting closer, but just have a land border with them. And then over here, and like over here, and here. Honestly, the more limited ones are them. They're more limited. As these guys, as the blue team tries to block them out from the rest of here, and they do this successfully, blocking them out from these guys, and just bombarding them, even make it landing. And now all that's left of this country is this fort. So because of the Zode surrender and kind of agree to some terms that kind of have a little bit of autonomy, but like not really. They're basically they would get pushed back to this in their puppet state. So yeah. Now Red would make a big counterattack. It would do this. It would basically send a huge amount of their forces over. Now, I'm not going to color this red instead of yellow, because yellow is supposed to be a buffer state all along, basically, and it kind of is still. As these guys just push into it even further. And, yeah. So red team would eventually intervene, trying to take as much land as possible while this collapses. They would kind of succeed, but not really. They would take like 60% of it, but it was already kind of dead. Now these guys would continue marching, but eventually it stops because they encircle them. They make a desperate attempt to connect back, and they do this. Not before, but they still lose like 50% of their 70% force. So they lost another huge amount. So now these guys have to begin to collapse because, you know, you can't do much when almost 50-ish% of your armies died. I know it's being a little unrealistic. Remember, the army sizes aren't that big here. Like, these guys probably have 10,000. These guys probably have 15,000 now. These guys have like 8,000, 4,000. Because these guys are militarized from the previous Civil War, that's like 13,000. These guys started at 10,000. And with their allies together, they're like roughly 25,000. These guys are like roughly 40,000. If you include these guys, which have 10k, then yeah, it's a little even, 35,000 or 40,000. But they just were never going to win. So it's just not very fair. On the plus side, Ireland is like discovered and settled, so, you know. Yeah, that happened. Anyways, so over here they keep losing ground. It's just not good. Now Green would try helping, but they just, yeah, it's just not gonna work. So because they have similar navy sizes, although a lot of this does have to go over here for trade. So you know, the Green team has a slight naval advantage, similar to Britain in World War II. It's kind of, you're not gonna win there, but you're also not really gonna ever be able to lose. So that's why these guys surrender. Now, what would happen is this would happen because, of course it would. Why wouldn't it? And then I think roughly the same border, because remember, this is the second time there's been a great war between these two factions. Alright, something had to be done, especially against Green. So actually, now they would lose Cornwall. Cornwall would be lost. Now this is kind of big blow to these guys, because they had the security of not having a land border with anyone, and they could kind of just chill. Not anymore. Red team is completely demolished. This is the second time they've taken a beating, and now it's not even over yet. Now red team, a former major power, has become basically nothing. A destroyed country. But that's okay, because in the end, really, what can be done? Well, let me tell you. Red, some countries don't take it lightly. Some countries experience turmoil. When a country is pushed too far, they begin to break down. And this is what's going to happen with these guys. Now, extremist ideologies are not too rare in our world. It's happened a lot. Now a new government's going to take place. And this one will have a lot of ideas about how to get their power back and where to get it from. But that is for next episode. So make sure to watch that if you want to know more. So, goodbye, suckers.